With just 16 days until the Manchester City fixture at the start of the season, Wolves have a hell of a lot of work to do, both on and off the pitch. So let's speak a bit about my biggest concerns and what I think they need to do before the season starts. Now, I've been very vocal about the fact that pre-season is solely for fitness. No matter what club you support, I've always felt that way. However, there are a lot of worrying signs in pre-season, in my personal opinion. One thing I really want to cover at the moment is the goal scoring issue. Now, I don't think anyone's really spoken about this in too much depth, I don't think. So, in terms of when you look at the goal scorers for the pre-season games, obviously Strand Larsen scores against Burnley. But aside from that, it's Hwang against Stoke with a really poor penalty ultimately. It's Gonzalo Guedes last night, which was, in itself a baffling decision to play him, given the fact that he looks like he'll be off by the end of the weekend, start of next week. And then also Sasa Kalajic against Santa Clara. Now, 3 of those 4 goal scorers could well be out of the door this summer at Wolves in some capacity, whether it be a loan or a permanent deal. Now, I think that's a really interesting thing, to be honest, to look at, and I think it's also very, very concerning. Now, of course, Wolves have Jean Arias and Fer Lopez to also play a few more minutes as well. So, he's looked really sharp at points, but I want Fer Lopez to play a bit more so we can see a bit more of him. But Jean Arias, hopefully, can solve a lot of those issues. But I think it's massively concerning as well when the players that aren't going to be around the club are scoring. And ultimately, you could look at it from the angle of perhaps they're trying to impress teams, so they want to get on the score sheet and teams can come in for them. But equally, I don't think that matters too much in pre-season. If a team wants their target, they'll go and get them. So generally, it's not a massive massively great bit of news for Wolves that 3 of the 4 goal scorers are players who won't be there next season. One thing that really concerns me as well going into next season is the fact that Wolves are just one Jose Sa injury away from either Sam Johnston or Dan Bentley in goal, and there's a high possibility that Sam Johnston leaves for around £7 to £8 million this summer as well. So the idea that Dan Bentley will be the backup and then it's Tom King as the backup options is massively concerning. Now, of course, I've been very vocal about Jose Sa. I'm not a massive fan of him really. I think he's massively improved since Vitor Pereira come in, and I don't think he's anywhere near the top 10 issues at the club, to be honest, at the moment. But equally, I think he'll be moved on in the next 12 to 18 months. But again, I do think it's very, very important that Wolves look at that issue, and if they are going to let go of Johnston, look at bringing in another keeper, because you cannot go into the season with just Jose Sa and Dan Bentley. If Dan Bentley gets it, if Jose Sa gets injured, you've got Dan Bentley or Tom King. It's a very worrying scenario either way. Now, I don't want to go into this one too much because I have discussed it on my channel. I'll link the video on the video somewhere as well. Generally, it's the fullback areas that are massively concerning at the moment. Obviously, Rodrigo Gomez looks good when he plays there. Defensively, he's nowhere near good enough in terms of that. In terms of the offensive side of the game, he's really impressive. Hugo Bueno is very much the same in my opinion. Really, really good going forward. Got a great delivery on him, but ultimately not a Premier League standard fullback in my personal opinion. I think if you go into the season with Rodrigo Gomez, who can cover both positions, Hervera from the right and Bueno from the left, as all second or third choice options, you're in really good shape, but they cannot be Wolves' starters next season. And I just wanted to get that in here quickly because I do have many videos on my channel about the fullback issue at Wolves and what they need to do this summer. So definitely check them out if you can, because I don't want to go into this in too much detail in this video because I don't think I need to, quite frankly. Ultimately as well, Matt Doherty looks like he will be the right centre-back in this Vitor Pereira system going into next season, given the fact that Mosquera hasn't played much in pre-season. And Pedro Lima, for me, is gagging for a loan. But that's just my personal opinion. Let me know what you think about this one, Wolves fans. The next issue is, of course, midfield depth. There's just absolutely zero, isn't there? I mean, if there's one injury in there to the likes of João Gomez or Andre, the drop-off is significant anyway. But also, there's a high chance that I think on the opening day, I don't think Fer Lopez will play against City in terms of starting. So I think Marshall Monetzi, Andre and João Gomez will all be in that side on that opening day, which leaves you with one midfield option off the bench. And maybe unless, Chireba comes back into the squad and stays around it, but I don't think he will. I don't think he's Premier League quality or anywhere near it personally just yet. So the fact that there's 4 midfield options for a 2 midfield slot is absolutely ludicrous. And again, if there's an injury next season, Wolves are in massive trouble. And I've done videos on my channel about midfielders I think they should go out and look to sign. So go and check that one out if you haven't already as well. Now, one of the biggest concerns on the pitch for me is the fact that Wolves are almost creating nothing in any of the friendlies, really. They're not creating a hell of a lot of chances. They don't look particularly potent going forward. I think Fer Lopez has looked bright in sparks, and he was unlucky last night not to score. The ball just went slightly over the bar. But generally, Wolves aren't creating anywhere near the amount of chances required to ultimately stay in the Premier League or be anywhere near sort of pushing on in the Premier League from last season. And I don't think that looks like a possibility at the minute. And that's not me being negative, because you know me, I'm a very sort of optimistic person as well. But it just looks very concerning in a lot of areas at the moment. And there's only 16 days, like I say, to get all that business done. Now, hopefully John Arias solves that issue slightly. Wolves need some potency, some attacking threat, and also some unpredictability, and John Arias has that in abundance. So I do hope he brings that into the squad coming next season, but God, it just looks so poor. I mean, look at the attacking options here, really. Ultimately, the ones I think are good enough or somewhat aren't unbelievably terrible. I think Strand Larsen's good enough. John Arias is obviously good enough. Hwang Hee-chan is very on the fringe. For me, not really. Sasa Kalajic, again, not really. Fabio Silva remains to be seen, but I don't think so personally. Chirewa, again, no. Gonzalez not ready yet, of course, hasn't played anywhere near enough and has been, had significant injuries. Fer Lopez looks good enough, but it remains to be seen. Gonzalo Guedes, no. And Mateus Mane, again, a player that I think should get a lot of minutes next season, hopefully. But again, how much can you rely on a kid? Do you know what I mean? You just really can't do that. It's not sustainable. And one of the final points that I'll leave you with is the fact that this was Lopetegui's last squad, that one that he walked out on. And I mean, look at the lineup. Probably, for me, Agbadou, Andre and Jurgen Strand Larsen get in this team. Obviously, he'd move Neto back in that lineup, playing where Sarabia is, and then put Strand Larsen up top. And for me, they're the only three players, really, that get in this team, which is massively concerning in my personal opinion. And that's from someone looking out on the outside looking in. Of course, the bench in this game, as you can see here, was really poor still. And actually won't be a million miles off what Wolves may go into next season with. But equally, yeah, it's really poor. And I do think that Totti Gomez is obviously another one that you can consider as well. It just depends on the formation that you'll play. But generally, I mean, that squad now compared to the current one, it's almost different class, really. But again, they have an issue of the current one in terms of the starting 11's nowhere near awful, but equally the bench is very concerning. So I think even if that says something really about the lineup that Lopetegui walked out on, I think it's more than likely and very possible at the minute, with the way that the situation is currently going, that Vitor Pereira does walk out on Wolves. I hope he doesn't, but I do think if it's ever going to happen, it will be this season, because he's just not being backed anywhere near enough to the point where, how much can a manager really do when he's got nothing to work with? That's the worrying thing. And let me know what you think about that, Wolves fans, because I think it's massively concerning as well. If there's any video ideas that you'd like to see me do about the Wolves as Wolves fans, also let me know that too. If you're not a Wolves fan but you did enjoy the video, I'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe to the channel if you're not already, like the video, and as I say, comment on it, because I really appreciate interacting with all of you. And I never leave a comment unreplied to, whether I just like it or reply to it. I always reply to every single one in some capacity. So thank you all for watching this video today. I really appreciate it. I'm sure there'll be more Wolves content over the coming weeks, and hopefully we see a bit of movement in the transfer window in the next 24 to 48 hours. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.